All right, it turns out that the government has known for years that Prudential Financial has been profiting off death benefits for families of America's men and women in uniform. This is the latest development of Bloomberg's investigation into the insurance company. Bloomberg Markets magazine has learned of a secret deal between the financial firm and the Department of Veteran Affairs. David Evans is a senior writer for the magazine. He broke the story to begin with. He joins us now on the phone to discuss it further from Los Angeles. So, David, thanks for joining us. What did you learn about the VA's relationship with Prudential from documents that Bloomberg Markets magazine has obtained under the Freedom of Information Act?
Yeah, well, thanks. It's nice to be on your show. The main thing that we got from using the Freedom of Information Act is copies of the contracts that covered the insurance arrangement between Prudential and the VA. We know that starting in 1999, and we had known, instead of sending out checks to survivors, they sent out checkbooks, and Prudential was able to profit by keeping the money that was owed to the survivors and invest it. What we didn't know was that this was apparently in violation of the contract. The program began in 1965 with a contract between Prudential and the Veterans Administration, a sole source contract. And what the contract, which we got our hands on, says is that the payment has to be a lump sum, and a lump sum is a check. But beginning in 1999, Prudential was not sending out checks. 90% of the people who got money, who asked for a lump sum, would instead get a checkbook, the Alliance account, which allowed Prudential to keep their money, earn interest and invest the money. And also the key point for the survivor is that it was not FDIC insured.
And David, let me just jump in, because I think what's really caught all our attention, and maybe our ire, if you will, is that the VA officials sanctioned this payment practice, correct?
Right, exactly. This is not something that was being done behind the backs of the VA officials. The VA officials considered this for a year in 1998, and then June of 1999, they allowed Prudential to begin using this method. Now, one of the really interesting things that we found is that there was some concern among top insurance officials at the VA about allowing this money to stay with Prudential instead of being paid out. The director of insurance for the VA, a gentleman named Thomas Listowka, wrote a memo on June 9th, 1999, where he wrote things like, disasters do happen. He asked a subordinate, who is responsible if the Alliance goes belly up? That's the name of this account.
Okay.
So, David, let me just ask, though, just to be clear, it's always been an option for the recipient to claim all of their funds instantly after they've gotten sort of the letter.
Well, they've always been able to request it, but instead of getting their funds instantly, they would get a checkbook. They would ask for their funds in the form of a lump sum, but instead they would receive a checkbook.
From which, though, they could take all of the funds if they wanted.
If they were, yes, they could. Yes, they could. But there were a lot of bereaved folks who took their time in taking that money out, and sometimes they left the money there for years.
Okay, and we should point out from your reporting and covering of the story that now the VA and says that Prudential, they'll now send beneficiaries of these life insurance policies a check.